Let's go and solve for x using the Pythagorean theorem. Now remember the Pythagorean theorem, leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, same exact thing, but I like to understand the hypotenuse is always directly across from a 90-degree angle, and our legs are the two sides that make up that 90-degree angle. So I have leg squared, so this one, x squared, plus my other leg squared, which is square root of 10 minus x, quantity squared, is equal to a 4 squared. Now, a lot of times students don't like seeing radicals inside of this, but this is actually not that bad at all because the inverse operation of the square root is squaring. So therefore, I can just simplify this to an x squared plus a 10 minus x is equal to a 16. Now I recognize this is a quadratic, and I remember anything about solving quadratics, I gotta get it equal to 0. Then I can use factoring, completing the square, or good old quadratic formula. So I'm gonna subtract the 16 to both sides, and I'll rewrite this as an x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. Now I want to see, is this factorable before I go to any other methods? What two numbers multiply to give me a -6, but then are going to add to give me a -1, because that is the coefficient of my middle term. I see I can factor this into an x minus 3 times an x plus 2 is equal to 0. The reason why factoring is so helpful is now we can use the zero product property. I can set both my factors, since they're separated by multiplication, equal to 0. So x minus 3 is equal to 0, and x plus 2 is equal to 0. Running out of a little space, but I get x equals 3, and x equals -2. So does that mean there's actually two options for this? Well, here is where extraneous solutions come in, because these are the solutions to this quadratic. But now let's go back into our original equation and see which one of these is actually going to make sense. Does it make sense for a -2 to be the side length of a triangle? No, not really at all, right? So therefore, that is going to be an extraneous solution. What about 3? I can plug 3 in for x. That makes sense because remember the leg always has to be smaller than our hypotenuse. And then if I plug 3 in for x here, 10 minus 3 is going to be 7. Square root of 7 is 2.645751.3. But again, that's perfectly fine for the side length. As long as it is not negative, we are good to go. And as long as that is smaller than your hypotenuse, you know that this solution is going to make sense.